Hey, everybody, it's Dave here, and no Darren today. Darren, after moving to Yellowknife, it took about 3 years to sell his house in Nova Scotia, and he's back in Nova Scotia, packing up the long little bits that he had there and getting the house ready to close. That's why he's not here today. But that's okay. You got me, and I've got you. And who better else to discuss the Vikings being 5-0, baby. That's right, we're 5-0. And today, I'm going to take a little deep dive into the numbers as to why exactly are we 5-0. Obviously, because we win. And we're going to go from there. And I want to welcome everybody that's joined the show. Get ready for Two Old Bloggers. Let's rock! Vikings First and SKOL presents This Week in Vikings Land with Darren and Dave, your two old bloggers. Hey, everybody, and that is the wrong screen, but that's all right because I have the power to do the right one. Here we go. Today's show is going to be about the 5-0 start. Yeah, baby. Your Minnesota Vikings are 5-0. And that is a little bit surprising. Ben Gessling, formerly of the Star Tribune and now of NFL Network, said that this performance has exceeded preseason expectations. Most people called for 7 to 8 games winning at the best. Well, they're 5-0 after 5 games. What does that mean? Most sports books had them at 6.5 wins. And Darren is not here today, Anthony. He is in Nova Scotia closing on his old house. Could not be here, unfortunately. Now, as Ben continued, those who bet on the over might have a chance to cash in their tickets at the end of October. I hope you all were some of those that put in for that, because that would be pretty damn cool. Now, to put this in historic content, the Vikings in the last 10 NFL seasons, there have been 21 teams that have started 5-0 in the last 10 seasons, just 21. 17 out of 19 that started 5-0 before 2024 made the playoffs. You got to remember this year it's the Chiefs and us. So 17 out of 19 made the playoffs. 6 of those teams reached the Super Bowl, with the 2015 Broncos winning it. And we all know that is Tyler's favorite quarterback right there. So, Delton says he's on plus 750. Okay. Daniel made it to the show. Good for you, Daniel. Only 2 teams in that 10-year period didn't make it to the playoffs. We had the 2015 Falcons, headed up by Matt Ryan, and the 2016 Minnesota Vikings. And we know how that season went. I took this picture of Daniil sacking our favorite quarterback, one of our favorite quarterbacks. This was one of the early wins before they started to implode because of all the O-line injuries. Anthony says the Chiefs need the refs to do it, where we did not. Well, very possible. Sure looks that way sometimes. Well, that brings us to the next interesting stat by this man, Kevin Seifert. Kevin Seifert had the ESPN statisticians going to work, and they put up this slide this week. Now, this thing is a thing of beauty, yes. It talks about the least amount of time trailing through 5 games since the 1970 merger, and in it, it has the Saints, who did not trail at all, 0 time through 5 games. They ended up winning the Super Bowl. The 84 Dolphins only trailed for 1 minute and 7 seconds. They lost the Super Bowl. The 2023 49ers trailed by 1 minute 45 seconds. They lost the Super Bowl. The 1999 Rams trailed by 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and they lost the Super Bowl. Then you have, or they won the Super Bowl, pardon me. And then you have the Minnesota Vikings at trailing only 3 minutes and 26 seconds. Super Bowl yet to be determined. Followed by the 1998 Broncos under Elway, who trailed only 4 minutes and 23 seconds, and they won the Super Bowl. So out of the 5 teams that are on the board, besides the Minnesota Vikings, all of them made it to the Super Bowl, and 3 out of the 5 won it. Now, does that mean the Minnesota Vikings are going to be there? We hope so. That's all we can say is we hope so. Now, diving into the numbers a little bit further, because that's what I'm here for, I want to get, where to go? Tyler Lochner from For the Numbers. All right, this is good, tasty tidbit. Yes, Drew, it was. You had some good ones on your show as well. And if you haven't watched it already, after this show, go check out Vikings Report with Ted, Drew, and Chris. And they had some good tidbits talking about a lot of this. It's pretty good. Yes, Northfius, those scumbag Saints, and we'll talk more about them later. But Tyler Lochner, who's now with FTN, and this is Shat's DVOA crew, formerly of PFF, another brainchild that left, broke down how the Vikings rank historically via DVOA. For those that don't know, DVOA is where they take and they weigh offense, defense, special teams, strength of schedule, who they played, when they played, all that, and it goes into their computations, and it comes up with numbers, DVOA numbers, as you've seen on this show before. Only one team ranking first in DVOA through 5 weeks since 2000 missed the playoffs. One team. And that team was led by this man. Unfortunately, Sam Bradford, 2016 Vikings. And we know what happened in 2016. Only one team won the Super Bowl from the number 1 position through 5 weeks. And it was this scumbag team, as Norsefius calls them, the Saints, in 2009. Oy. They have the lowest offensive rank for any teams in this position. I got a big chart. Didn't want to bore you with graphics of a spreadsheet, but it's we have the number one defense, obviously, and the 19th ranked offense, DVOA. And that's the biggest swing between number one and the offense. Similarities between the 2016 season are there a lot. Both teams had weak offenses but dominant defenses, and both ranked first in defense through week 5. Yes, Norsefius, Rams got Sam Bradford killed for years. And it's unfortunate about his knees. Just totally unfortunate. Or he would have been good for us. Anyways. Now, Vikings' current performance. Well, we don't need that. Current performance. We held a 63-point differential. And this is coming from Matthew Culler. Now, he wrote that the Vikings currently lead the NFL with a plus 63 differential. In the last 10 years, there have been 23 teams who have outscored their opponents by at least 50 points, and only 10 clubs who have produced better point differential than the current Vikings. That's a lot. Or, that's not very many. So, out of the 12 teams that were plus 60 or better, all 12 made the playoffs. 10 reached at least the divisional round, and 3 of them went to the Super Bowl. Thank you, Matthew, for those. The team ranks 14th in offense efficiency, and they boast the best defense in the league per DVOA. Yes, we knew that. We talked about it. Hey, Fat Matty Man. Now, offensive analysis of this team comes down to Sam Bradford, basically. The offense is considered solid, where you're looking at the efficiency number of 14 or the DVOA at 19. Solid rather than elite. We'd like elite. We started elite. And this is the point where Darren chimed in on a text that basically 6 quarters ago, after we went up 28 points, Sam has started to look like he's regressed a little. But is it just Sam? The Vikings are a quality passing team, but slightly below average in running. The pass offense ranks 7th in the league via DVOA. Justin Jefferson has performed well, as has Jordan Addison. They rank 9th in success rate per dropback and 24th in rushing success rate, which I don't know why. We've been running better for the most part. Rushing offense is below average, ranking 22nd in DVOA. Team is run heavy, using the run 48.1% of the time, which is 10th in the NFL. And the slow-paced offense is averaging only 59 snaps per game. Now to Darnold. Darnold ranks 14th in his ESPN QB metric, 19th in PFF's grading system. He's second in deep yard passing, and he's fourth in a deep yard passing rate. Darnold has a 103.4 passer rating with 11 touchdowns, tied for second with the Buccaneers' Baker Mayfield. Only the Bengals quarterback has one more, and 4 interceptions. Now, mind you, his biggest beef people talked about was how his interceptions and touchdown ratio was about equal when he came here. Well, he's thrown 11 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. So he's improved on that, which is a good thing. Fat Matty Man, the last 2 games seemed to offense sputter and let the other teams get back. Yes, we're going to talk a little bit about that too. Davey says Jones is going down could be a blessing in disguise. We become more dependent on the pass. It'll make our offense more explosive. Now, speaking of explosives, yes, the Vikings offense is very explosive oriented. Kevin O'Connell very much seeks out those explosive plays. And that's what goes into a lot of the longer plays developing and routes run, but it does. So he likes that. Now, with Sam Darnold, I heard this week that he's got an outstanding passer rating in the first half of all the games. It's like 130. And then it almost halves in the second half. That's because of the last 2 games. And same with Justin Jefferson, which is weird. Now, could it be because they're trying to run the ball more because we're ahead? You know, we haven't been behind. We go out and establish the lead, and that's what we want. But it's the second half that comes up. So Achilles disagrees, cannot have a one-dimensional offense. It needs to be balanced. Or overwhelmingly so. So you need the run game. That's been proven the last 2 seasons, whether it be the fraud season or last season. I would think you would need it. Now on to the defensive strengths. The Vikings are ranked first in interceptions with 11. Points scored first with 14. QB pressures first with 94 per Next Gen Stats. The Vikings rank second in sacks with 20. Rushing yards per game, second with 67.2, and Harrison Phillips been a big part of that. Yards rushed per rush, 3.6, ranks second. Second in interceptions per attempt, 4.8, and second in takeaways at 13, all per Next Gen Stats. Davey says the only thing that's going to stop us is injuries and playing all 4 quarters. The Vikings are ranked first in EPA on defense. They're first in opponent scoring percentage, second in pressure percentage, and opponent QB rating of only 70.3. And we played some good teams, playoff teams, so far. They rank 5th. Oh, they lead the league also in QB hits. They rank 5th in rushing EPA against and are 8th best in coverage teams according to PFF. Not bad. Not bad at all. You're talking a number one defense. Woohoo! And we were hoping they'd be middle of the pack, maybe top 10. Gotta admit, Brian Flores is doing a heck of a job. Overall DVOA rating of minus 37.1% is sixth best figure through 5 games since 1979. That's right. Since 1979, they are the 6th best per Aaron Schatz. And he's saying we had Tyler Lochner, is equating it to the 2016 team. Well, Aaron Schatz is saying, no, it's more like the Baltimore Ravens team where they had Dilfer as QB and the defense was so good. Let's hope so. Now, team composition, how's it made up on the defense? No individual players are at an all-pro level by PFF. 10 of the 11 or 12 or however many you want to do rank or get grades averaging between 65 and 76 out of 100, suggesting a well-balanced team. And this goes towards Kwesi and B-Flow and Kevin O'Connell in their free agent acquisitions this year, which has been outstanding. Drew talks about it yesterday or this morning on his show. Probably the best free agent class all around that the Vikings have ever gotten. And like I said, if you haven't watched Vikings Report with Drew, Ted, and Chris, watch it immediately after this one. It's a good show. And it's got Toonses on it today, which is great. She had to bow down to Ted, which is odd. But the free agency success, as we all know, most of the players are on short-term contracts. And only a few signed beyond 2025. We have, my images are out of order. Jonathan Grenard is one of those. Blake Cashman is another one. But they aren't the only ones. We have Andrew Van Ginkel, Camus, Grugier, Hill, and of course, Jihad Ward. There's a bunch. They're all short-term contracts. The only ones that have signed for next year are Van Ginkel, Grenard, and Cashman. Hey, buddy. I think that is going to be great. He signed through 2025 there, Delton, so I don't know why Cashman would want to leave. I understand wanting bigger money after this, but he signed through 2025. Now, key players, of course, that came through this free agent class. Sam Darnold. Can't do it without him because J.J. McCarthy had his meniscus torn, unfortunately. But we'll see. Van Ginkel's got his signed through 2025 as well. Dylan? Aaron Jones is a one-year guy. Been great. so far, as long as he stays healthy. Short term, as in 1 or 2 years, Dalton. Short term versus long term, 3 or 4. Camus Grugier Hill is another one. Is on a 1-year deal. And Stephon Gilmore is on a 1-year deal. So, torn ACL. Who are you talking about having a torn ACL? Let's see. Sean Brown. We knew defense was going to be better than last year. More pressure, more sacks, top 10 or better, more versatility, run stop, cornerback, question mark, safety room. Think all those boxes are all but checked. They are. See you, Davey. Have a great weekend. And the other thing in the offseason that Kwesi did was get us off this contract. They navigated the challenging situation, including a quarterback switch with $28.5 million dead money for the Cousins deal. Despite these challenges, their free agency moves made largely a success. You wrote, Dalton, about torn ACL. Right here. I was asking you. Now, John Musgrove agrees. We do have a lot of players on 1-year contracts. Going to be busy with extensions. Yes, it may. And speaking of extensions, we always say that Cameron Bynum is the next one due an extension. Would you consider any of these 1-year wonders maybe move ahead of Cameron Bynum in that list? Going to be interesting to see how they work that out. Now, we do have $75 million in available cap space next year per OTC, and that is going to be eaten up by a lot of these guys, the ones they want to keep going forward. So, and Anthony agrees. Any 1-year deal players that perform way better than expected should be brought back or traded for draft capital. Well, traded, how are you going to trade them? They got to be under contract to be traded. So, you don't want to trade them this season because we're on a run. Harrison Phillips had a good year, according to Sean. Oh, yes, he has so far. But looked overworked later in the season. He's got a backup this year. Yes, he does. Levi Drake Rodriguez is one of those. Drew talks about Cashman's motor. Yes, yes, yes. And Chris says, keep buying them. Well, we'll see how that goes. I don't know how they're going to play this. They very well may, especially with Harrison Hitman Smith possibly being in his final season. That's yet to be determined as well. Fort Matty Man says we better extend him because we don't have much for draft capital. You got that right. So we'll see. Hey, Doug. Now, the Vikings do face some challenging quarterbacks on the schedule. And you've heard me say 100 times, we all go, first thing I look for is motivation and who the quarterbacks. Because the better quarterback wins generally 80% of the games. Now, we have Kirk Cousins still on the screen. We have him eventually down the road in November. But immediately in week 7, we have Jared Goff, which is going to be an interesting game. And boy, we're going to get into that next Saturday. It's going to be good. Drew wants to trade Jay Ward for a 6-pack of Coors and a bag of shake weed. Guy is terrible. He hasn't done well on special teams. I'll give you that, Drew. Chris says he's been playing catch up on our team's news regarding the running back situation. It's pretty clear that we need to give Aaron some help and he's not sure Chandler's the answer. Well, we'll get into that a little bit further down the road. It's on the deal. Harrison Smith can play for another year or two at a high level, according to Sean, but you need Bynum re-signed to be his heir apparent. Well, very well could be. John says he's been thinking about Darnold's situation. There's no way the GM lets him walk without compensation. That's if we don't re-sign him. It's going to be interesting. And yes, Roman, we need to kick the dirty birds to the curb. Now, like I said, week 7, Jared Goff. And then we have Matthew Stafford when the Rams. We play the Rams. Now, Stafford is a very, very, very good quarterback. Won the Rams a Super Bowl. But I think he's getting up there. So we'll see how that goes. Anthony wishes to trade Ingram and Bradbury. Well, you have to have a trade partner there, buddy. And then we're going to have Trevor Lawrence, who I like to call the Danny Dimes of Jacksonville. They got about the same stats. But he has better hair. But Danny Dimes has the better looking girlfriend. So we'll see. The biggest matchup, key matchup, is going to be against Detroit here in week 7. Next, not this Sunday, but next Sunday. That's going to be the measuring stick because everybody in the country believes that the Lions are for real and that they have the best chance to win the division. All the bettors do. In the NFC, they still have San Francisco as number 1. If you take NFC bettors only, they have the Vikings and the Lions tied for the number 1 position. Depends on your audience. But this will be the game. Roman says, I'll tell the better looking girlfriend, said the bald man. Could be. Danny Dimes' girlfriend is Kay Adams. So, Travis says, hi, everybody. A good test will be Detroit. You got that right. It's going to be a test. Now, some cautionary notes for Vikings fans. And I hate to go through some of this, but we've been there. Ted, the experts have been right about everything since COVID. Yeah, you got that right. All right. Drew's saying if Ty Chandler starts, he goes for 100 plus against the Kitties. We'll find out. And he may. I got a little burp on that later. But to go through, we're the Vikings. We've been through hell, to put it bluntly. The squad has disappointed us numerous times. Whether it be the 41 donut game, the game in Washington in the NFC Championship where a certain person dropped a touchdown, this game where Brett Favre threw across his body. Of course, who can forget Gary Anderson? Wide left. He hasn't missed a kick all season. But that's just one of many wide lefts. There was this one in 2015. Now, granted, it's not a championship game, but same results. And then you go back to our 4 Super Bowls. Our last one against the Raiders. We haven't pulled it out. Could this be the year? I don't know. And then, of course, the biggest of all desperation plays, the Hail Mary. Drew says, stop with the doom and gloom. This team's different. The staff is different. The whole vibe is different. Well, that's what I'm hoping for, Ted. My next question is, I know there is more on the doom and gloom list, but is this year different? It's indicating so. There's a feel, a vibe, as you said, that this is a better season. I was listening to a podcast with Chip Scoggins, and he said that you can feel it amongst the players, that they're playing a whole team effort, and that if the offense is having a bad day or special teams are having a bad day, the defense is like, no problem, we got you. It is different this season. Will it end up like all of that? Who knows? Hopefully not. That's the whole point. But history shows the likelihood of an epic meltdown. It just does. We've got to beat it this year. That's the point. Do they have the squad to do such? I don't know. 2016 felt like the fraud year. Or 2016 was the collapse and 2022 was the fraud squad. Right? And they felt different than this year does. Ted, that's why I'm saying we got to go through it, learn from our history, hopefully, so we don't repeat it. Anthony says he hasn't seen our D swarm the ball like this one in years. Yeah. But it's not the defense I'm worried about, Anthony. It's the offense. But we've started 5-0. And it's the only second time in 13 years we did that. 2016 being the other one. Now, during that 5-0 start, we didn't have Jordan Addison for half of it. We haven't had TJ Hawkinson for any of it. Aaron Jones got hurt in the last game. It is what it is. We get Addison. Addison will obviously be back, is back. Aaron Jones, I'm hearing, has a hip injury is how it's listed, and he's week to week. It's a tendonitis, basically, on the hamstring upper where it attaches to the hip bone, according to a MD that diagnoses it by watching the injuries, for what that's worth. So, could he be back? Oh, hell yes. If it's just tendonitis, all that is it's sore. It's not torn. It's not damaged. It's just inflamed. Inflammation runs all those commercials you hear about. Get this. It helps with inflammation. Sam will be fine. I saw that, Anthony. So, it is what it is. So Aaron Jones hopefully is back because the offense is so much better with him running than Ty Chandler. Now, Ty Chandler's performance sort of bothered me a little bit, but he can be better. He has been better at times. So I don't know if it was just a onesie thing or what, but I think we're going to be fine. Now, Sean says the upcoming defenses we play rank 24th, 29th, 32nd, and 31st. Surprising that Detroit's defense is 24th. Bet their rookie CBs are struggling, or but their rookie CBs or cornerbacks are struggling, so maybe our defense will get plenty of help from the offense the next 4 weeks. We're hoping so. 2022 was not the fraud squad. That was a quote by Tyler Lochner. Ted says he would actually argue it was a glimpse of how good the staff was. He took Zimmer's team and basically went 7-9, and then went 7-9 and 8-9, and the last 2 years went 13-4. Yes, he did, but we weren't dominant in all the numbers like we are so far this year. There was some luck in that. So, and KOC realized Donatel sucks. Yes. They went for Flores, which was the best move ever. Fort Manyman says Chandler's dropped a lot of balls. More than we like, yes. Ted says, now we have players that fit the scheme and a kicker that won't miss. Yes. Will the thrill. Northfield says, I think Sam was off due to that wicked hit to his ribs. He'll rest up this week, hopefully. And hopefully there was no damage. I haven't heard anything, but quarterbacks can play with rib injuries. It's just painful. Anthony says Chandler is better with a lead back grooming in the opposition. Grooming the opposing defense, i.e. like C.J. Ham leading the way. And then John says, in Chandler's defense, he had a couple good plays called back. Yes. And the conditions were not ideal. They were English sunshine, as I used to call it, but it's a misty, rainy black on a brand new turf, which makes it slick. But hopefully, come next week, we'll have TJ Hawkinson back. I know they might not want to activate him just yet because you have the Thursday game against the Rams following, and he can wait until even after that, until the next game to be activated. But I think he's going to want to be activated for this week. We're going to find out. Now, there was a problem with, Sean says, and we know defenses win championships. Top defenses, how often have potent offense to balance play? Most of the time in Super Bowls. Yes. So it is what it is. Now, we hope with having a full squad, Addison, Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, Aaron Jones back, everybody playing, Sam Darnold playing his best, calm down after whatever it was last week and the second half of the week before, that will go and continue this magical season. And said it from the beginning, this season could be magic. We're going to find out if it is a buster of the Vikings always flub it up crowd. We'll find out. Ted said they waived Jalen Redmond. They are activating Hawk. That's great news, Ted. Northfield is back to cooking his homemade chicken soup, and he will be listening. Oh, good. But that's what we're going to do. The only thing I worry about is the fourth quarters against the Niners and Green Bay, where we let them come back. We won, but we let them come back, and they scored a lot of points in the fourth quarters. They didn't in the third, and we had already established the lead. But if we can knock that down, keep being aggressive, so we take the will away, like we did with the Giants, I think everything will be just fine. Sean says, nothing wrong with TJ playing moderate snaps. Even less versus the Rams. Yep, nothing wrong at all. But it is what it is. we're going to see. I think he's going to be motivated. Absolutely motivated. So hopefully that works. But anyways, that's it for today's show. On this bye week, I want to thank everybody for joining me. You've been great. Love the conversation. Next week, you'll have Darren back, not just me reading off my notes. And he says, like and subscribe, people. I would appreciate it very, very much. Now, there'll be no show tomorrow because we don't play. So I want you to enjoy your bye week as best you can, whether that's doing a honeydew list or going out, whiskey tasting like I did last year. It is what it is. John says, digging up old wounds in the 70s. We had a weak link in the offensive line. That could cost us big going down. Well, we'll find out. Hopefully they get better. You want them to get better. Chris says he likes Dallas Turner a lot. When do you think he was going to rank amongst the other edge defenders? I think he's done fine so far. He's been outplayed. They haven't needed him, so he'll get his time. Thank you for it, Matty Man. Ted says, ring the damn bell, folks. Yep, appreciate it. Two-Tone says, great show. Well, I hope so. When it's just me, it's a little bit more difficult to do. But anyways, hey, may the Vikings keep on winning and warm our hearts. No show tomorrow, but we'll have Tyler on Monday for the Real Forno show at 6 o'clock. And then we'll have Sal on Tuesday with Scolders and Spice. And then on Wednesday, I'll be hosting the NFC North Roundup show. Coming off the bye week, it should be good. Give the rest of the guys grief for if they won or lost, etc. So, all of you, enjoy your friends, enjoy your food, enjoy a great beverage. And what do we say? SKOL Vikings. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell, and rate us on your favorite podcast aggregator. Darren and Dave, thank you for watching this episode of Two Old Bloggers. We look forward to seeing you on every show on the new Vikings First and SKOL. You can find our podcast as part of the Fans First Sports Network. Sports takes for the fan, from the fan. SKOL, everybody!